Right, lads, welcome to the dev server. As always, this is subject to change. Starting with the Hype Mobile, as I'm going to call it, the M1 KVT. A lot of buzz about this, mainly from American fanboys, new premium. Anyway, it's a rank 6 battle rating 10.3. Thing to note, it is just a copy and paste of the Tech Tree M1 Abrams. You have the same round, the M774. So compared to something like the T72 AV Terms, which is also a $60 premium, your main gun round is a lot weaker. Your rate of fire is going to be a bit better. You're going to be a lot faster than the Terms, but the survivability is going to be not as good, really. This is just an XM1 on steroids, basically. Same issues as an XM1. Mediocre gun, but very high mobility. We then have the M4/T26, and as this sounds, it's just an M4 hull with a T26 or an M26 turret. Battle rating 6.0, 4th rank of the American Tech Tree. It's got like a 90mm gun on a Sherman chassis, really. It's a little bit of a meme. You don't have a stabilizer, but I guess it will be an issue for some Tiger players because this will go straight through. I think you have the M62 round, or M82, sorry. So 173mm of pen, 7 inches of penetration. You will ruin the day of some German mains. One thing to point out though is look at the size difference between the M1 Abrams and this thing. You certainly are not going to be subtle in this vehicle. But yeah, nice addition for some players, not something that I'm really interested in though. The other hype mobile or the hype aircraft is the the F-14B, sorry. This is basically a F-14 with 2 much stronger engines. It is slightly heavier than the F-14A. It's a little bit heavier, so you don't really have that great rate of turn that you did in the first F-14. That being said, though, the T-14B is still a good turner. You're still going to have a lower wing loading than most planes at top tier just because you can put them straighter. So the jet's got a shitload more thrust, a little bit heavier. So you don't really need to have a good rate of turn at top tier anymore. It's just like Fox 1 meta, isn't it? So you've got a lot more thrust, a lot better acceleration, and you'll lose a little bit of turn rate. So not the worst in my opinion. It's a rank 8 plane, battle rating 12.0. Another thing that this F-14, we do get AIM-9Ls now. We also have the Sidewinder flare launcher or countermeasure launcher. So kind of like the British Harry, you can have additional countermeasures. In this setup here, I have 380 countermeasures, so certainly not going to be getting killed by IR missiles. Another thing that this now merges the dedicated fighter role of the F-14A with the multi-role designation of the F-14B. Not only do we have a good lineup of missiles, including the AIM-7M as well as the AIM-54Cs, the new Phoenixes, we now have laser-guided bombs, allowing you to use this thing in ground realistic battles very effectively. The other thing to note though, if you are going to be using the GBUs, you do lose one of the wing root pylons. This is where we have our laser designator. We also have a TV camera here. This kind of acts a little bit similar to something like an IRST found on Soviet planes. Not really too sure yet. I've not had a proper thing with it. But yeah, good plane. This is going to be the new top cash jet for America, I believe. You can basically go supersonic and well, I don't think you can actually release these at supersonic speed, but it's going to be a lot better than like something like the A6E. We then also have the BF2C1. This is a new reserve, sorry, bloody hell, I'm having a stroke halfway through recording. So this is a new reserve plane for the American Tech Tree. I'm not really interested in this. I thought I'd mention it. Every time I see this camouflage, it reminds me of Brazil. I just assume it's a Brazilian plane, but it's just the early pre-war American camo. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going to cover that. It's not really that useful. Now, you might be saying, SAKO, that's not new, that's an F-16, and you're right. But what is new is this new type of bomb. These are the Snake Eye bombs, part of the larger, quote-unquote, retarded bombs. Anyway, these bombs basically allow you to bomb extremely low without killing yourself in the process. Not a new plane, as I said, but I just thought I'd mention it. We then move to the German Tech Tree, and we have the Panzer 38 NA. I'm not too sure about the history of this. It does have a 37mm kind of short barrel gun. 37 calibers. It's not the best. It is only battle rating 2.3 though in the 2nd rank of the German Tech Tree. So not many people are going to be playing this, to be honest, but a nice addition nonetheless. We then have a rank 5, battle rating 7.3 tank destroyer, kind of missile tank destroyer. This is called the Raketenautomat, I guess. It's basically the same as the Swedish vehicle that we have, the USS, except this thing is on a track chassis. Compared to the USS, we do have a reload available, so we do actually have 29 rounds of ammunition available instead of like the 12 in the USS or something. So you're going to be a lot less mobile than the Swedish counterpart, but you're going to have more firepower in terms of more ammunition. We then get another Su-24 for the Su-22, sorry, for the German Tetri. We now have 2. I'm not really too sure why. Keep adding these. I guess it does give you like the late Cold War Soviet CAS, the KH-25MLs. They're pretty potent air-to-ground missiles, to be honest. But if you've got the Tornado in the German Tetri, then there's no reason at all to fly this. This thing, you have laser-guided bombs. It's just as fast. And in my opinion, I don't really see why you'd ever play this. There's no 11.0 meta in it at the minute anyway. It's more 11.3 anyway. So you're better with the Tornado. But again, nice addition. Germany's getting another Soviet jet. And finally for the Germans, we have the Z-46. This is a German destroyer. German destroyers were famous in real life for being incredibly poorly designed. They were very, very unstable. They mounted guns way too big for a destroyer shame. Or a destroyer frame, kind of, or hull, I guess is more the correct term. And we do have 12.8 millimeter, not 12.8, 128 millimeter guns on a destroyer. For the people that play naval, you know that this point is going to be shit because we do not have semi-armor piercing. We only have high explosive and HE time fuse. So this thing is pretty much useless. It's not got any ammunition that will penetrate the hull of ships. It's just going to explode on the side, causing minimal damage. Again, it's like the premium destroyer that they added last time. This thing only gets HE. It's a useless ship, basically. Don't even bother playing it. On to the Soviets, we then have the Object 435. Originally, I thought this was a prototype for the T-64, but I guess it's a prototype for the T-62. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Anyway, we do have the 150mm gun. It's the same gun that's found on the T-62, basically. We have the 3BM3, which has better angled pen, I believe. Oh, it's not, actually. I think you are better using the stock shell on this. It's got better angled penetration. I'm not really too sure. Anyway, for a battle rating 8.3, it's going to be very, very good. The 8.3 lineup for the Soviet Tetri is very, very competitive at the minute. You have the T-62 original. We have the premium AM1, the Sturm, the BMP2s, T10. Very, very good lineup here. It might actually be a prototype for the T-64A. Anyway, nice tank. The armor is pretty decent. I don't see this staying at 8.3, to be perfectly honest with you. It does seem quite more powerful. We then have the Su-25T. This is a Tetri version of the Su-39. Well, the Su-39 is a premium version of the Su-25T. This tank, I'll pull in, I guess. I'll show you on the Su-39 because everything's already unlocked. We basically have a load of missiles available. I'm currently running this one just as a kind of demonstrator. So we have the KH-29Ls. These are laser-guided huge rockets. Then have 8 Vikia missiles on each pylon for a total of 16 anti-tank missiles. Then have the KH-25s, the S-130Fs, I believe, and then the R-60Ms, or the MKs, whatever they're called for the export ones. Anyway, you can see we have a lot of bombs and air-to-ground munitions here. So you have the big boy rockets, which everyone uses at the minute in top tier CAS. There's just one thing to also notice is we do have a radar system in this thing. That's actually the TV pod, actually, sorry. Where is the laser thing? Here we go. So this is like an air-to-ground radar as well as an air-to-air radar. It can be used for both. You don't have any radar-guided missiles on this plane, but what it can be used for is like locking up a ground target. And then it like points your nose camera at the ground target. So it's kind of like an acquisition radar found on like the Apache. It's pretty cool in theory, but in game it's kind of like handling It's like the systems are too complicated to do in an actual match, in my opinion. You're better off applying for the Russian military and just flying a real one. It's just as complicated to use. But pretty good point. I don't really know why they're adding another premium SU-25 variant. They added one literally last patch. I don't really know why. I guess in top tier ground, this thing will be a little bit better. Both planes do have an IRCM Dazzler infrared countermeasure. It's not really going to protect you from stuff like the Roland 3 though, which is shooting at you from the front. Anyway, nice addition. Pretty blatant cash grab from Gaijin, but we should all be expecting that at this point. We then have the Bravi, which I think it stands for bravery. This is a destroyer with only 2 guns at the front of the vehicle, but we do have these, I think the multi-role rockets, V600Ps. They have 42 kilos of TNT, which is pretty decent to be honest. I think they also have a proxy fuse warhead, but it can be used against enemy ships where they are quite powerful. Quite a nice addition. Is it going to be that meta? I don't really think so. You only have 2 missiles, and while they can do a lot of damage, I think you get something like a USS Moffat, which can just spam 8 5-inch guns at you. I don't think this thing is going to stand that good, to be honest. Coming in at rank 4, and strangely enough at battle rating 5.7, we have the BTR-80A. This only has a crew of 3 men. In real life, the back would be full of, like, dismounts, I guess you'd call it. I believe the soldiers would get out this door here instead of having a door at the back. Kind of cool vehicle in real life, but not really that effective. It's not really something in War Thunder that is going to be that effective. We do have the same 30mm gun found on the BMP-2, but we don't have the Sabo round or the Fin round found from the BMP-2. So largely ineffective in my opinion. The tank as well also isn't that fast. It's kind of a bit cumbersome and lumbering around. So yeah, a 5.7 going up against a Tiger in this thing. Going to kind of break the immersion a little bit, I'm not going to lie. So yeah, not really sure why they're running it so low. Could easily go at 7.7 or 8.0 and just be a dedicated scout. They could even add like a crew of 9 men to make it at least a little bit survivable, because it'd be hard to kill the crew in a single round. I guess you could do that. It's not really how it would be in real life, but anyway. In this update, the British are getting shafted and not getting anything really in my opinion. We have the SARC Mark 4A. As you can see, this thing looks like a World War I vehicle. Not going to waste my time on it. We then have the HMS Doering. This is part of the Doering class destroyers, which were a post-war design. Served for in the Royal Navy for quite a long time after World War II. Last patch we did get the HMS Diana, I believe. This thing. Now you'll notice that this one only has 1 set of torpedo tubes, whereas the new Doering class does get 2. You have 10 torpedoes with this one. The ships in general though, they're quite strong to be honest. 3 turrets for 6 guns. They're only 4.5 inch, but they are very, very fast firing with a good set of ammunition, HE, SAP and proxy fused. So, pretty good destroyers. Post-war British destroyers were quite competitive, I guess you could say, in real life. But yeah, this patch for Great Britain, unless we get some new tanks in a different dev server, pretty sad to be honest. Alright, so first for the Japanese, we have the Type 87 RCV prototype. This is coming in the 4th rank at battle rating 5.7. This is basically, as you can imagine, a Type 87 hull with a new gun. It is a 20mm RH202. The battle rating of 5.7 is very low, and that is mainly due to the ammunition types that we have. We only have basically 57mm of penetration on our best shell. Not really going to be doing much at 5.7. This thing would actually be better for like 7.7 or 7.3, 8.0 maybe. Would start to get like the early Cold War vehicles with pretty much no side armor. At 5.7, where most of the tanks are going to have at least 40, 50, 60 mils side armor. This thing's going to be a little bit sad to play, to be honest. For the Japanese Navy fans, we then have the Issei. This is a World War I ship technically. It originally looked similar to the Hyuga. The basically sister ships, I believe. The Issei class, so this is the actual Issei itself. So the ISE, as you can imagine here, well, you can tell from looking at it, it's got its 1941 configuration. So it has had a lot of refits since the Hyuga. Basically got a better armor scheme. Its secondary battery has been removed in large amounts of places and covered up, as you can see here. We do have some more secondary batteries here. Not really that useful, to be honest. It's just a little bit of an upgrade compared to the Hyuga, I guess. Not really that. It's not really going to be that game changing. Nice though, very beautiful ship. Can't wait for the bigger Japanese super dreadnoughts and fast battleships coming in the future. For the Chinese, we first have the Object 211. This is a battle rating 5.0 vehicle in the 3rd rank of the Chinese tech tree. This is basically replacing the PT-76, I believe. They said something on the stream about how this is being removed a couple of weeks before the update for some sort of reason. I'm not too sure why. So this tank has the 85mm gun. I don't think the Chinese actually used the PT-76. I think they made their own and used like a kind of different variant, maybe. Anyway, not really something that I like to play that much, to be honest. The gun itself, it's not stabilized. It's pretty decent, to be honest. 5.0, there's not I don't really know enough about this. Maybe it was going to be a good tank. We then have the ZTZ-88B. This is a rank 6 battle rating 8.7, coming strangely enough before the ZTZ-88A. I think that the B variant has a shorter gun or something like that, giving it less penetration with its main round. I think this one has 351mm, whereas this one has 337, I believe. Yeah, so it's still going to be a pretty decent tank. You're losing a little bit of penetration, but that shouldn't matter too much. It's basically just a T-54 modernized, I guess, or a Chinese variant. Not really too much to say about that tank. And finally, for the Chinese, we have the J8F. This is a more modern version of the J8 that we already have in the game, the B variant. The F now gets a helmet-mounted display, HMD as you can see at the bottom there, as well as a pretty decent radar, to be honest. We have identify a friend or foe, track while scan, as well as an ACM mode. It's basically just a MiG-21 though, with more thrust. We do get some new party tricks, mainly our missiles. We now get the PL-8s, which are basically Israeli Python missiles, I believe. These things can be used with the helmet-mounted display. They're very, very good. They're kind of like Magic 2s, a little bit better, to be honest. Like all IR missiles though, they do get floored quite easily, so they aren't going to be like point and click, free kill simulator. The PL-5Bs though are still good. They are quite holding in the game. One thing to note that the PL-8s can only be carried on the inboard wings. They cannot be carried on the outboard. We can still take the PL-5s and have a good 6 missile plane. The only thing is though that this plane, it does get IR missiles. It gets the PL-11s, which are the Aspards. These things, not particularly good in my opinion. I'd stick with the IR missiles. It does make you a little bit out of the meta, but I think you're going to get a much better kind of a gameplay with this, to be honest. The jet itself is quite agile. It does have a good rate of turns. You can dogfight a little bit. That's not really the meta though anymore, so it remains to be seen whether this jet is going to be a challenger for top tier. I don't think it will be, but a nice addition nonetheless. Alright, so the Italians, we get the Freccia, or Freccia, I don't really know how you pronounce it. Basically a long boy, 8x8 wheeled vehicle, well it is. It kind of looks like a modern boxer vehicle. Yeah, this isn't going to be very subtle in game. It's kind of got the gun from a Bradley 25mm with APFSDS rounds. 92mm of pen though, not very impressive. What is impressive though is our spike missiles. These things, kind of like the missiles found on that Chinese event vehicle, are fire and forget basically. You get 2 of them in the launchers here, but we can carry a total of 8. Same positives though, you can fire them and then retreat. The downsides though is that you can't really control where they hit. So if you fire this against an Abrams, for example, and it hits a turret, then it's just basically just going to laugh at you. The gun itself though, not going to be doing anything at top tier or 10.0. You're basically just relying on the missiles. While this is a light tank, it isn't exactly stealthy, and you aren't going to rival tracked vehicles at top tier in terms of mobility. You are going to be quite slow, especially on rural maps. Maybe on maps like Cargo Port where you've got paved roads, it will be a little bit of an advantage, but I don't think this thing is going to be hugely powerful. But the spike missile is good in my opinion, and it hopefully stuff like the Puma gets it and stuff like that. The Italians are also getting some terrible things this patch, mainly the Tornado ADV. Apparently the flight model has been changed on this plane, so hopefully the British F3 will get some love as well. This is basically a copy paste of the British version, I believe, with a different skin. We have AIM-9Ls with the additional countermeasure pods, always nice to see, and we can also carry the super temps. No air-to-ground ordnance though. Again, it's just an F3 clone. Maybe we'll be able to outturn a P-47 in this thing, something like that. Definitely not going to be one of the new meta jets though, but nice to see. Gives the Italians another top tier plane other than the F-16, I guess. But yeah, probably not going to be breaking any air-to-air metas anytime soon. Alright, so for the French, and up first we have a 155 howitzer, the ARF-1. We're going to call it the Awful One. We have a HE round with 6.8 kilos of TNT. We also have a proxy fuse warhead, as well as a smoke grenade or smoke round. This tank actually has a rate of fire which is pretty decent. It's got an autoloader of 7.5 seconds, I believe. I think it's an actual autoloader, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. So 7.5 second reload on a howitzer, not bad at all in my opinion. Still not going to have a reload speed faster than main battle tanks or tanks like that, but 7.5 seconds, you can't really complain about that. This thing is battle rating 7.0 in the 5th rank of the French tech tree. It does look a bit goofy. It's certainly not going to be winning any beauty points, but yeah, nice tank, good addition to the game. We then have the Lancaster. This is basically a French coastal patrol vehicle, I believe. It's got like a radar in its... Is it a dorsal fin? I'm not really too sure. Anyway, this thing doesn't get the big boy bombs. We only get the 1,000 pounders. Still going to be quite a decent bomber though. 5.3, certainly cannot complain. Coming in the 8th rank, battle rating 12.0, we have the Mirage 2000 5F. This basically merges the performance of the 2000 CS5 with the air-to-ground capabilities of the 2000D R1. French certainly don't have the best naming scheme. Anyway, so the 5F, it does have internally mounted guns, as you can see. We can also carry the... I can't actually remember the name. The Magic 2's IR missiles, as well as the 530Ds and the 530Fs. But as you can see, we can also carry a laser targeting pod. You see here, our pod goes on our wing route. Then we have this bad boy, as well as some others. So you can basically take this into an air-to-ground and still have pretty decent missile loadout and a substantial air-to-ground loadout. You can also go Mad Max and take a absolute ton of air-to-ground weapons like this. Probably going to be my new favourite cast jet for the French. Not really much to say though. It actually, because it has this loadout as well though, it can be used very effectively in both air realistic and ground realistic. Oh yeah, nice addition to the French tech tree. Not really sure why they added this so late. They could have just got rid of this and this and just added one Mirage. Probably just making it harder for people to grind so they get more Golden Eagle sales, but maybe that's a little bit cynical of me. And for Sweden, finally we get another Sherman. This is a Sherman 3/Sherman 4. Strangely, we don't have a 50 cal or a machine gun for the hull. I guess you don't have a frontal weak spot anymore, but it kind of looks strange. Kind of looks like a cursed Sherman. 75mm gun though with the M61 shot. Not going to be the best in the world, but I believe we now can take a Sherman, a T-34 and a Panzer IV all in the same lineup. So quite funny, to be honest, in terms of irony. The three people that hate each other are fighting with each other. We then have the CV90-30 Finn. This is coming in at rank 4, a battle rating 9.0, rank 6, sorry. This is basically a CV90 with a 30mm Bushmaster gun, I believe. Not really that impressive though. We do have a fin round with 116mm of pen. No proximity fused round though. So this is going to be a dedicated anti-tank vehicle kind of. It's more of a scouting vehicle. You don't really have the firepower to do anything that effective really. We can get the CV90 40B. Guess it's the Stritzford 904OB. This thing is so much better. You get thermals, you get proxy fused, and a decent, better fin round. So I don't really know why they added the Finnish version now. I don't know why. They could have added this before, and it at least would have had novelty before they added the 40Bs. But yeah, not too exciting for it. And finally for the Swedish, we have the AGS 37. This is the Erteground version of the Viggen, I believe. Yeah, the Viggen. This thing gets 4 Maverick missiles, you can see here. I'm not sure which version of the Mavericks they are actually. Are these the B ones? Yeah, I don't know. These ones might be HM65Bs. I'm not sure that they're the Ds. I don't really know. Anyway, we can carry the RB-24Js. Not really that good though, to be honest. We can also carry the pretty decent rockets. Fleur comes in pods, as well as our guns come in pods. So if you want to take guns in this plane, you're going to have to use the gun pods, as well as if you want to take Fleurs, you're going to have to copy that and take a Fleur pod by itself, giving you this type of loadout. Very, very inefficient in my opinion. I don't really know what the Swedish were thinking when they were designing these planes. Not very efficient in my opinion at all, but again, I'm not an aircraft engineer, so I might be chatting bollocks. And then finally for this update, we have the Magak Hydra. This is a Magak with some Hydra rockets just strapped onto it. I don't grind the Israeli tech tree because I think it's pretty boring. And I certainly won't be grinding this tank, so yeah. Don't really see a point in this thing. I guess it's kind of cool to have, but not really my cup of tea. Anyway, lads, thanks for watching. If you stayed to the end, I appreciate you watching and supporting the channel. As always, thank you to my YouTube members, and I'll see you in the next video.